So, good morning, my dear students. This is the third lecture of your subject Mechanics of Solids. In the last class, we discussed about the term stress. So, we discussed about the internal resistance force developed by the body against the external force. Then we defined stress. What is stress? Stress is defined as the internal resistance offered by a body to the external load applied to it per unit cross-section area. Okay, so the stress is equal to the internal resistance offered by a body against external load per cross-section area. Cross-section area. So this is equal to stress. And actually, this internal resistance resists the deformation of a body against external force. Okay, for example, when I apply a force on this pen, when I apply a force on this pen, when I apply a tensile force on this pen, and we cannot see any large deformation. Here I am applying external force, but we cannot see any large amount of deformation. The main reason is this: when I apply external force, this body develops an internal resistance against this external force, and this internal force actually prevent this deformation. Okay, and this internal force or this internal resistance prevent the deformation of this body when I apply an external force. And when the external force exceeds this internal force, okay, when an external force exceeds this internal force beyond a limit, then deformation starts. And this deformation will be an elastic deformation when the external force is within the bond energy. When the external force is within the bond energy, then the energy corresponds to the external force is within the bond energy. That is, bond energy is nothing but it is the energy required for breaking of the bond between the molecules. Okay, so if it is within the bond energy, when we release the load, the body comes back to its initial shape and size. But if the external load is the energy corresponding to external load is greater than bond energy, then what happened? The bond will break and it will lead to a permanent deformation. It will lead to a permanent deformation. Okay, so the stress is an important term because here we use the term internal resistance. So the deformation is dependent upon the internal resistance. So the internal resistance directly we can calculate from the stress term. So in our future lectures or in mechanics of solids, the most important term we are using is stress. Most important term we are using is stress. Stress is nothing but it is the internal resistance offered by a body against external load applied to it per unit cross-section area. Okay, and if you take a body, for example, in the last class we analyzed a bar member subjected to tensile force. A force is applied at the central axis. A force F is applied at the central axis. Okay, and if you take a section and if you divide the body into two segments, this is the left half and this is the right half. This is the right half. Then here, if the whole body is in equilibrium, the part of the body also should be in equilibrium to maintain the equilibrium of this segment. This segment, here we can see there is an unbalanced force to the left. For the segment 1, we can see an unbalanced force to the left. So we can say this is not in equilibrium because sum of F not equal to 0. Sum of F not equal to 0. Since here there is an unbalanced force to the left. To maintain an equilibrium, some internal resistance force will be developed across the cross section in the opposite direction of applied force. And when the internal force is developed, we can see sum of F is equal to 0 because this is in equilibrium. This is in equilibrium. Sum of F is equal to 0. And the internal resistance force direction is opposite to that of external force direction. And the magnitude of this internal force can be calculated from the equations of equilibrium. That is, sum of F is equal to 0. Here to the left we can see F, to the right P, so F minus P equal to 0. From that we can say F is equal to P. F is equal to P. So the internal resistance force developed across the cross section is equal to the external force. Equal to the external force. So here this is equal to, in the definition of stress, this is equal to internal resistance is equal to P. P by the, if the cross section area is equal to A, then P by A. And from the equilibrium equation, we got F is equal to P. So we can write F by A. We can write F by A. Okay. So the another definition of stress is, that is force applied, external force applied on a body per unit cross section area. That is another definition. And how that definition came? From this derivation. P is equal to internal actual actual definition is this one, internal resistance per cross section area. But we derive that the internal resistance equal to the external force. From that, P by A equal to F by A. And similarly for the second half also, second half, here the second segment also subjected to external force to the right. This is unbalanced force to maintain the equilibrium, and internal force is developed across the cross section, and which is also equal to P. Which is also equal to P. And the full body, the bar body is this one. F force is applied here, and another F force. This is a pulling force or tensile force. And if you take any cross section, then in that cross section we can see internal resistance force. That is equal to P, which is equal to F. If you take another cross section, here also there will be some internal force. And this is also will be, for example, if you take this segment and this segment, this is equal to F. So this will be equal to F. And this is equal to F. And this will be also equal to F. So here also the internal resistance force will be same. So if the cross section is uniform, then internal resistance force also will be equal to the applied force. Sorry, it will be always equal to the applied force. But if the cross section is uniform, then across any cross section, the internal resistance force will be same. Internal resistance force will be same. Okay. So here we the stress value is obtained by dividing the magnitude of P with the P of the resultant of internal force. So this P is actually the resultant of internal force. And this internal force we can see uniformly distributed over its cross section area. And the cross section area is A. So this stress value equal to average value of stress. This is the average value of stress over the cross section. Okay, we can define stress in different terms, or there are different definitions for stress, and this stress value is called average stress. So here I am writing average stress. Average. What is the reason? Here we take the internal resistance force. This internal resistance force is uniformly distributed across its cross section, and we take the average one. Here we take the average internal force. Okay, so the stress is also an average value of stress over the cross section rather than the specific stress at a point. There is another definition for stress. We will study that term, the stress at a point. Stress at a point. Stress at a point. So this is another definition of stress, that is stress at a point. But here we studied average stress. Average stress is equal to internal resistance per cross section area. Okay, and here the calculation of stress is very easy. The calculation of stress value is very easy because here we can see this force is actually acting at the central axis, the external force. This external force is acting through the central axis of this bar. This is the central axis of this bar. Okay, so this force is, we can say, this force is actually uniformly distributed across the cross section. Okay, so when we apply a force like through the central axis of this bar, the stress developed will be uniformly distributed across the cross section. And this force is called concentric force or point load. Point load. Okay, and we can see this type of loads in different structural members like truss members. And here, this force is acting through the axis. So the stress developed will be uniformly distributed across the cross section. Uniformly distributed across the cross section. So the calculation of average stress is very easy because the stress is uniformly distributed. So the internal force is uniformly distributed. So there is only one internal force, that is P. So we can take directly this P value here, and P by A is equal to average stress. But if you take another body, for example, we take this body. This body, just a second. So if you take this body, and here in this body, there are different types of external forces acting. Different external forces acting. P, P2, P3, P4. Different external forces acting. And if you take a cross section, and this, in this cross section, the internal resistance force may not be uniformly distributed. It may not be uniformly distributed. So here in this body, it is not easy to calculate this average stress. It is not easy to calculate this average stress. What is the reason? In this bar member, it's very easy because the internal resistance force and thereby the stress value is uniformly distributed across the cross section. But in this body, here we can see there are different type of forces are acting in different directions. And here we can see this body is a irregular body. Okay, so across any cross section, it may not be uniformly distributed. So it's very difficult to calculate this average stress. Average stress. So such a body, we are actually using another definition of stress, that is called stress at a point. Stress at a point. So we will study about this stress at a point. So for a complex body or irregular bodies, we commonly use this term stress at a point. So how to study these two terms, average stress and stress at a point. Okay. And for the stress, we are using what is the unit of stress, internal resistance per cross section area, the internal resistance force. We can write internal resistance force. So force, what is the unit of force? Force is equal to Newton. SI unit, the area at meter square.
Per meter square.
Okay, Newton per meter square. So this is the unit of stress, and we call this unit as Pascal. Another term is Pascal. Pascal is equal to 1 Pascal is equal to 1 Newton per meter square. 1 Newton per meter square, 1 Pascal. So this is the SI unit of stress. Then 1 kilopascal will be equal to 10 raised to 3 Pascal. This is equal to 10 raised to 3 Newton per meter square. 1 megapascal is equal to 10 raised to 6 Pascal. Mega 10 raised to 6 Pascal. That is equal to 10 raised to 6 Newton per meter square. 1 gigapascal is equal to 10 raised to 9 Pascal is equal to 10 raised to 9 Newton per meter square. Okay, and this 1 megapascal can be rewrite like this. 1 megapascal is equal to 10 raised to 6. 1 megapascal is equal to 10 raised to 6 Newton per meter square, or 1 Newton per mm square. 1 Newton per mm square. So commonly in your questions, most of your problems, and the stress may be this unit, 1 Newton per mm square, or it may be in 1 megapascal, or it may be 1 gigapascal. So you have to convert into appropriate unit. Okay, for example, for a particular problem, all the dimensions are given in mm. All dimensions are given in mm. I mean the dimensions of the structure. And the stress is given in megapascal. Then we can easily convert this megapascal into mm. 1 Newton per mm square. We can do all the throughout the problem we can use mm unit, because the dimensions are in mm, the stress value is in mm, so we can use mm throughout our problem. Okay, so you have to study this. The unit of stress, the Pascal is the SI unit, and we can use kilopascal, megapascal, and gigapascal. In this class, we are going to study different type of stress. So stress basically can be classified into two. First one is normal stress. The second one is shear stress. Normal stress and shear stress. And if the stress are normal to the area concerned, then we can call that is a normal stress. For example, if we take this, if we take this beam member or this pen, and if I apply a particular force which is perpendicular to this cross section, for example, I'm applying a force here, and here we can see the force is perpendicular to this cross section. Okay, so such type of, or if the force is applied normal to the cross section, then we can say that is a normal stress. Or if the force is applied perpendicular to the cross section, then we can say corresponding stress is normal stress. Okay, and basically we can divide this normal stress into two. The first one is tensile stress. Second one is compressive stress. Okay, first one is tensile and the second one is compressive. So both are normal stress. And if the load is applied such that it tends to pull apart the particles or material, leading to the deformation, that is elongation in the direction of applied load, then we can say that is a tensile load. So here we apply a load that pull apart. Here, if you see this sponge material, if we apply a load that pull apart the material or particles of the material, leading to the deformation, that is elongation. Here, when we apply a tensile force, it leads to elongation. in the direction of applied load. So here, this is a force F applied on this body, and here this force tried to pull the material apart and resulting an elongation of the material or body. Then that type of load is called tensile load, and corresponding stress across any cross section is called tensile stress. Okay, so what is the final result from a tensile stress? A elongation, deformation. Okay, elongation, deformation. So that is called tensile stress. And second one is compressive stress. So here we are applying a load F, and this load F actually push the materials closer in the direction of applied load. Okay, this applied load actually pull the particles of the material in the closer in the direction of applied load, and this load is resulting into shortening of the body. Okay, so here we apply a load which try to push the material or particles of the material closer, and that result into a shortening of the body. Its length is reduced. Its length is reduced. So that is called compressive load. Corresponding load is called compressive load, and the stress developed across any cross section is called compressive stress. So these are the two normal stress: tensile stress and compressive stress. Okay. Then coming to, so commonly if you take a bar element, and we use a letter, Greek letter sigma for representing stress. This is the letter which is used to represent stress. So stress is equal to, or stress is represented with the sigma. Okay, sigma. Yesterday class we studied the unit of stress, that is equal to Newton per meter square or Pascal. And here the stress is equal to, if the cross section area is equal to A and the load applied is equal to F, then stress is equal to load by area, and this stress is an average stress. This is an average stress because this stress internal force resulting internal force developed across the cross section is an average force. Okay, we take the average internal force across the cross section, so the resulting stress will be an average stress. Okay, so these are the first two types of stress: tensile and compressive stress. Next type of stress is called shear stress. Shear stress. Here, consider a body, and in that body, I am applying a force in the tangential direction. Here I am applying the force in the tangential direction. Okay, so but in previous case, we apply the force normal to the cross section. This is our cross section, and the force is applied normal to the cross section. The previous case for normal load. Okay, so the load is actually, we can see, that is perpendicular to this cross section. Perpendicular to this cross section. But here in shear stress, the load is applied. The load is applied tangential to the cross section. This is our cross section, and the load is applied tangential to the cross section. Okay, can you give an example for this tangential load? Tangential load. For example, if you take a scissor, okay, and if we cut this paper using scissor, so actually what happened? So inside, this is the cross section area. This is the cross section area. This one. Okay, this one is the cross section area. Okay, and across this cross-section area, the top lever of this scissor applying a force in the downward direction, and the bottom lever applying force in the upward direction. So here this is the figure. So this top lever, the top lever applying a force in the downward direction, and the bottom lever applying the force in the upward direction. And this is a cross section which resists the two forces. Okay, this is our paper. This is our paper. So this is an example for shear load. Shear load. So when a section is subjected to equal and opposite forces, here we can see in this scissor, here I am applying equal and opposite force. One is acting downward, one is acting upward. So both the directions are opposite, and here I am applying equal force. Equal force. So here equal force is applied. Equal force is applied in opposite direction. Okay, so when a section is subjected to equal and opposite force, not in same straight line. Not in same straight line. It should not be in the same straight line. That means idole avaradu. Okay. Idole scissor case there is a small distance between these two levers. Okay. So both the forces are acting in different straight line. Okay. Not acting on a single point. So when a section is subjected to equal and opposite force, not in same straight line, acting tangentially across the resisting section, then we can say the section is subjected to shear force. Acting tangentially. Here we can see across this cross section, actually this is tangential. Okay, that means here if you take so if you take this member, if the load is acting like this, the load is acting like this. This is a tangential or parallel to this cross section. Okay, so such type of load is called shear force. But if the load is acting like this, the load is acting perpendicular to the cross section. That is a normal load. But if the load is acting tangential to the cross section, then it is a shear force. And there are some other components for the definition of shear force. What are they? The load acting on the cross section should be tangential, and thus load should not be in a same straight line, and the load should be in same magnitude and opposite direction. These are the conditions for shear force or shear load. Okay, so again the definition is, when a section is subjected to equal and opposite forces, not in same straight line, equal and opposite forces, not in same straight line, acting tangentially across the cross section or resisting section, then the section is subjected to shear force. Okay, and the resulting stress is known as shear stress. And the resulting stress is known as shear stress. Okay, so this scissor cutting is an example for applying shear force. So here we can see the force acting in opposite direction. One is downward, one is upward. Here I am applying same magnitude of force on the both lever. So the forces are same in magnitude, but the direction is opposite, and the force are not in same straight line. We can see some distance, in very small distance between these two levers. So these are not in same straight line, and this force is applied actually tangential to the cross section. Tangential to the cross section. Here, this is the cross section. This is the cross section. This is the cross section. So actually, the force is actually applying tangential to the cross section. Okay, tangential to the cross section, like this. Okay, so force actually parallel or tangential to the cross section. So this is an example for the force exerted by a pair of scissors is an example for applying a shear force.
So what happened to a body when subjected to such type of shear force? For example, when a body like this subjected to shear force. So this is an example for shear force. Here the same force with the small distance, opposite directions, applying tangential to this body. So this is a shear force. What happened when we apply such type of shear force? The body trying to slip across any particular cross section. Body try to slip across the particular cross section. This may be the final, sorry, this may be the final position of the body after deformation. So across any cross section of the body, body trying to slip. Okay. And this type of deformation is called shear strain. Shear deformation and shear strain, corresponding strain is called shear strain. Okay, so if you take any body, if you take this cross section, and this will be the cross section of the body. So if you take this cross section, then there are some shear force across this cross section. Okay, actually this force actually parallel or tangential to this cross section. Okay, and because of this shear force, body trying to slip across each other. I'll give an example for this type shear force exerted on a member. These are two plates, plate 1 and plate 2. And here in this, a rivet is used to join these two plates, plate 1 and 2. Okay, a rivet is used. So this is a rivet. This is a rivet. Okay, so this rivet is used to join these two plates, plate 1 and 2. Can you give an application of this riveted joint? Anywhere you see this type of joints, riveted joints?
Door.
Door.
Boilers.
There?
Door.
Boilers.
Kitilla. Everyday?
Boiler ഇല്ലേ boiler അത് എക്സാമ്പിൾ പറഞ്ഞിരുന്നു സാറുമാർ.
Yes. To join the plates, the surface of the boiler. Okay, boiler top body joint, we can use this rivet, and you can see this riveted joint in your bus body. Transportation using bus body, we can see this riveted joints. Okay, so this is nothing but this is used for just for joining two plates. Just for joining these two plates, we use this riveted joints. Just a second. Okay. So here, after joining these two plates using a riveted joint, applying a force F. Okay. So this is similar to this application of shear force. This is similar to the application of shear force. And what area actually resists this shear force? Here we can see in this example, in this example, here we can see when I apply force F tangentially, and this is the cross-section area which resists this shear force. Okay. Or this one or this one? Which one? A or B? A or B? Which one resists the shear force?
A.
Yeah, right. But in case of application of normal force, A or B? This is A, this is B.
B.
B. Okay, so when we apply a normal force, the resisting cross section is B. Okay. For example, if you take a bar element and when you apply a pulling force, then of course the fracture or breakage will be in this cross section, along this cross section. Okay, not in this cross section. So the resisting cross section is B cross section. But in case of this body subjected to shear force, the resisting cross section is this one, because we can see the breakage is in this cross section, along this cross section. That means the material or the cross section which is resisting this fracture is this cross section. Okay. And in this case, what is the resisting cross section? I'll give different letters. This is A, this is B, this is C, and this cross section, this is D. Which one? The resisting cross section.
C ആണ് sir.
B അല്ലേ? B.
B. So you think where will be the failure location? So when I apply a force F in the two direction, where will be the failure location? A, B, C, D.
B.
How this failed?
B.
B.
The two
Across
places.
B. Yeah, across B. So this force F actually resists by this cross section B. Okay, because when we apply a huge amount of load, the rivet only first rivet failure will be in B. The rivet fail in B, and this will be the final position after failure. After failure, this will be the because this is only joining location. So this is the figure after failure. So this is the cross section where this rivet failed. Okay, so B is the cross section where this shear force is resisting. Okay, and when we calculate the shear stress, we use a letter. The shear stress is equal to, this is the definition is almost similar to the normal stress, that is the resisting internal resisting force per area, and shear stress we take the cross section area which is resisting this deformation or which is resisting this shear force. In case of bar member subjected to tensile or compressive or normal force, the resisting cross section is this one. So we take this area for calculating the normal stress F by A. The failure for this bar will be like this, F, and this is the second bar after failure. So this is a cross section which is resisting the external force. Okay, so here we take that cross section, this cross section. Okay. And in case of this riveted joint, the cross section which is resisting is this one. This one. Okay. So here shear stress is equal to, and here we use tau. This letter is called tau. This is tau. This is not T. This is tau. Okay. You see the difference between T and tau. This is T. This is tau. Okay. This is used to represent shear stress. Shear stress. So shear stress tau is equal to the force by the resisting cross section, which is the resisting cross section. For example, in this case, A1. A1 is the resisting cross section. Then force by A1. Okay. So that is the value of shear stress developed across the cross section. And here also the cross section and the internal resistance is uniformly distributed across this cross section. So we take the average value. So average shear stress is equal to tau average is equal to F by A, F by A, where A is the resisting cross section. This is the resisting cross section. Okay. And I'll give you another example. So you have to give the equation. This is another riveted joint. Another riveted joint. Here I am using rivet for joining 3 plates. Rivet for joining 3 plates. So this is plate 1, plate 1, plate 2, and plate 3. Okay, and by using a rivet, I make a rigid joint between these 3 plates by using a rivet. And the cross section area, of this rivet is equal to, this cross section area is equal to A. Okay, this cross section area is equal to A. Then what is equal to tau? Shear stress tau. Shear stress tau is equal to force. Here the force applied is equal to F. Here in this direction, F, and in this direction also F. What is the shear stress? Anyone? Shear
F
stress
by
is
A.
what?
F by A.
F by A. F by A. The shear stress is equal to force by the resisting cross section. Here, what is the resisting cross section? This one. This one is the resisting cross section.
F by A by 3.
A by 3. Here we can see this is a resisting cross section, right?
ഏറ്റവും മുകളിലെ പ്ലെയിനില് ഫോഴ്സ് ഇല്ലല്ലോ.
Here also the force is applied. Here both, for example, both are connected to the, and the force F is applied. Okay. In this direction force F, and in this direction also force F. So the resisting force will be, external force will be F. F by what is A?
2A.
It will be 2A. It will be 2A because here we can see this is the resisting cross section. This is the resisting cross section. And this also a resisting cross section. Right? This also a resisting cross section. You can imagine when you apply a force for breakage of this joint, you have to break this point as well as this point. Okay. So this two cross section resisting this external force. So here this will be is equal to F by 2A. The two cross section resisting this external force. Okay. And I am taking the cross section, for example, in this case, I am taking the cross section. This will be the cross section of the rivet. Okay, this is the cross section of the bottom part, and this will be the cross section of the top part. Okay, and actually the force should be tangential. We can see this is the direction of force, and across the cross section also the force is tangential or parallel. Right? So across the cross section, this will be the direction of force. Okay, and in the top part of the rivet, this will be the direction of force. Okay, that is tangential. For example, if this is the top part of the bottom rivet part, then this will be like this. The force will be like this. There will be number of force acting tangentially across the cross section. Okay. Okay. So that is about shear force.
സാർ ആ പ്ലേറ്റിന്റെ തമ്മിലുള്ള ഏരിയയിലും ഷിയർ സ്ട്രെസ് ഉണ്ടാവില്ലേ? റിവറ്റ് അല്ലാണ്ട് പ്ലേറ്റിന്റെ അവിടെയുള്ള കോമൺ ഏരിയയില് അവിടെ ഉണ്ടാവും?
Because there is no joint between this plate. Actually, we use two plates. Here, use two plates like this. Then we rivet. We drill a hole. Then we rivet. Okay.
Okay.
So only joining area is actually a rivet. There is no bonding between these two plates.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So that is the second type of stress, that is called shear stress. So for these MOS classes, you may heard about this normal stress and shear stress. Keep this in mind. This normal stress acting normal to the cross section, and the resisting cross section will be this cross section. And if a body is subjected to shear force, the resisting cross section will be this one. Okay, and shear force is shear stress or shear force is a tangential force. The force are playing parallel to the cross section, but in case of normal stress, the force is acting perpendicular to the cross section. And there's another, so basically these are the two type of stresses, normal stress and shear stress. Normal stress is represented with the sigma, shear stress is represented with the tau. Okay, and there's one more stress also, that is called bearing stress. Bearing stress. Bearing stress. The bearing load. Okay, maybe some components experience this bearing load. That is one type of compressive stress. So one type of compressive stress, but this compressive stress is actually not acting normal to the cross section area. This bearing stress is one type of compressive stress, but this compressive stress is not acting normal to the cross section area. Okay. And so actually in a bearing stress, you can see in this figure, you can see this figure here. In this, a bolt is actually inserted in this hole. There are two parts for this block, and a bolt is inserted in this hole. And in this ball, I am applying a force F. And applying a force F. Okay, so for us similar to this one, Here I am inserting a ball inside my hand, and I am applying a force like this in this direction. Okay. For example, tie a rope in this. Just a second. So here. Inserting a bolt inside this hole and applying a force in this direction. What? This direction. Here also bottom. For example, tie a rope in the two ends and try to pull this rope. Okay. Pull this rope. What happened? This bolt experience or applying a compressive force against this surface, Okay, this ball applying a compressive force. Entire surface of this bolt actually applying a compressive force across the entire surface of this hole. Entire surface is the one part of this hole surface. Okay, so what happened? There will be a crushing between these two surfaces. This surface of this ball and this surface of the hole subjected to crushing. And this type of load is called bearing load. So here in this figure you can see, we can see this ball applying a force on this hole. And this surface of this bolt and this surface of this hole subjected to a crushing load or compressive load, and that result into a crushing of the surface. Okay, so in some of our components, this type of stress also experiences. Okay, that is called bearing stress. So this type of stress not commonly came in our lectures. Okay, so this is called bearing load, but generally we can say there are two types of stress: normal stress and shear stress. Okay. So there are different type of, basically these are the two types of stress: normal stress and shear stress. And in our components, we have different type of structural members. In this structural members, different type of stress will be developed, and actually these stresses will be a combination of this normal stress and shear stress, or it is a type of normal stress and shear stress. Okay, just wait. So basically stress is classified into two: normal and shear. And so we already discussed about these two types of stress. Next type of stress is called bending stress. Okay. We will study this bending stress in your third module. And this stress is this stress is actually a normal stress. This is actually a normal stress, but this stress is developed in a beam member. For example, if you take this beam, so beam is a horizontal member. When this beam subjected to an external force, for example, I am applying a point load at the center of this beam. At the center of the beam, I am applying a point load. Okay, so what happened? When I apply a point load at the center of the beam, this beam starts to deflect. beam starts to deflect. Then across the cross section of the beam, across any cross section of the beam, some stresses will be developed, and that stress is called bending stress. That stress is called bending stress, and this bending stress is a normal stress. This bending stress is a normal stress. So basically there are two types of stress, normal stress and shear stress, and this bending stress is developed across the cross section of a beam. Beam is a member, is a horizontal member which is used to carry vertical load. Okay, and this bending stress is developed across the cross section of the beam. So this stress is actually a specific one for beam, and this beam stress or bending stress is a normal stress. We will study about this. We have an equation M by I is equal to sigma B by Y, sigma B by Y, where sigma is the bending stress, that is My by I. So here we can see this is a normal stress. We use sigma for representing normal stress. Okay, so this is the one type of stress when a beam subjected to bending. For example, this is a beam, carry a point load, it's subjected to bending. Across any cross section of the beam, a stress will be developed, that is bending stress, which is a normal stress. Okay, so we will study about this bending stress, and we already divide this normal stress into tensile and compressive. And across the cross section, this normal stress will be tensile and compressive. It will be tensile and compressive. And half of this portion subjected to, for example, if the beam deflects like this, the half of the cross section will be subjected to compression, and the remaining half of this cross section subjected to tension. Okay, and we will study in detail about this in your third module. So remember this, the beam member is subjected to bending stress, which is a normal stress, and across the cross section, both the compression and the tension will experience. And second type of stress is called, another type of stress is called torsional stress. Torsional stress. Okay, and the torsional stress experienced on a body which is subjected to twisting. For example, if you take, for example, this is a shaft. And for example, one end of this shaft is connected to engine, and another end of this shaft is connected to wheel. Okay, another end of this shaft is connected to wheel. And when the engine starts, what happens? The engine starts to rotate. At the same time, there is the wheel is stationary. So engine starts to rotate, but wheel is stationary. At that time, the shaft experiences a twisting. Because this end is stationary, but this end starts to rotate. And this end is stationary. Okay, so when the engine starts, this shaft is subject to twisting. Okay, so here we are applying a twisting force or torque. For example, if you close the door, when you close the door, actually you are applying a torque. Okay, a rotating force. But if I apply this is a pulling force or tensile force. But for rotation of a member, for example, I want to rotate this member. For the rotation of the member, we apply a torque. Here, how this torque is applied? Here, I'm applying a force F. Using this pen, I am applying a force. Using this pen, I am applying a force F, and this body starts to rotate. Okay, and what is the value of torque? Torque is equal to this force into this perpendicular distance. This perpendicular distance. Okay, so when I apply torque or twisting force, the body starts to rotate. Okay, so you can see the body starts to rotate. So same force is applied when you open or close the door. You are applying a force, but corresponding to that force into the distance between the application of force and the rotation axis, that is the perpendicular distance. The force into this perpendicular distance will be the torque you applied to open or close the door. Okay, that is called torque. So same torque is actually applying here for twisting. Okay, so here we are applying a torque or twisting force. What is the result? The result deformation is a twisting. So when a body is subjected to such type of torque, in order to resist this twisting, we can see there is not visible twisting in shaft, which is used to connect between engine and gearbox, or engine between engine and wheel. We cannot see any type of twisting. Okay, but there is the wheel is stationary. When engine starts, the wheel is stationary and the engine starts running. So there will be a twisting force, but we cannot see any type of twisting on the shaft. So the reason is that when we apply a twisting force, the cross section when we apply a twisting force, the cross section of the shaft resists this twisting. Okay, and across any cross section, a torsional stress is developed. So when a shaft starts twisting, a torsional stress is developed, and this torsional stress is a shear stress. This is a shear stress. This torsional stress is a shear stress. Okay, and this is the formula for finding the torsional stress. P by J is equal to tau by R is equal to G theta by L, where this tau is the shear stress. So these are the two additional type of stress, that is bending stress and torsional stress. Bending stress develops across a cross section of a beam when it is subjected to bending, and this bending stress is a normal stress, and the torsional stress is developed across the cross section of a member which is subjected to twisting, and torsional stress is a shear stress. Okay, so these are the different types of stress. We will study this torsional stress. The body, we will design a body subjected to twisting in your 4th module. So where we use these equations and all those things. So you have to remember this torsional stress is a shear stress. And okay.